Thank you so much for watching today. I'm Erin Stuart, a recruitment consultant with DeLacy Executive Recruitment. DeLacy is a third-party search firm that specializes in full desk recruitment for the agriculture industry and the food and beverage processing industry. So perhaps you're wondering, why listen to her? What does a recruiter know about interviewing? Well, that's a good question. I work with organizations of all sizes, helping them find candidates in everything from primary agriculture to capital equipment to large commercial bakeries and meat processing plants for roles from manufacturing or sales positions all the way up to director level roles. So with that, I meet a lot of candidates and I spend time helping them prepare for their interview and follow up after to see how it went. I've learned a lot over the years about what works in an interview and what doesn't. So I'll share some of those learnings with you to set you up for success with your interview. I'll start us off with a story. This is Amy. She's going into a virtual panel style interview for a position she's really well qualified for. She knows the role, she knows the company, and she feels pretty confident, so she doesn't prioritize preparing for the interview or researching the company that she's interviewing with. They ask her some really tough kind of self-reflection type questions, and she struggles to put together relevant, concise responses, and unfortunately doesn't move forward in the process. She knows the role and can do it well, but based on her responses, the interview panel didn't get a chance to see that. The best candidates don't always get the job. The candidates who interview well get the job. You can have all of the skills and all of the experience that an organization is looking for, but if you can't articulate that in your interview, it's really difficult to land the job. Time spent preparing for your interview is time well spent. I'm going to give you some real examples on how to prepare. So grab a pen and a piece of paper or open up a Word document so you can take these examples with you. Do your research on the organization. I can't stress this enough. We had a candidate removed from the interview process last week because they didn't do their homework, and sadly, this happens often. Ag HR professionals and hiring managers say that one of the best ways to stand out from the start is to do your research on the organization before your interactions. Find out about their structure, their customers, their competitors, their products. Let's dive in a little deeper. Doing your research on the organization, look for things like the company structure. Is this a family-owned company? Are you going to be meeting with the owners? Are there multiple business units? If you do your research and still don't know how the different pieces fit together, you can ask. It shows that you care enough to have taken the time to do your homework and have put together some relevant questions. Who are their customers? Do they sell direct? Do they sell through distribution, through retail? Who are their competitors? How do the products and the pricing compare? The products themselves, what exactly do they manufacture and or sell? And what services do they provide? We had a candidate last week who was totally turned off because somebody rolled into an interview and had no idea what the company even did or sold. So these are the things that you need to know going into that interview. Okay, quick question before we go any further. Who can answer questions perfectly when they're put on the spot? Okay. Who can formulate a solid answer when they've had some time to think? That's definitely me. Doing that prep work and doing the homework in advance will help you prepare for those questions. Review the job description and have your talking points ready. Print it off, have it on the desk in front of you. Take some time to write out a personal example or even multiple next to each responsibility on that list to prepare yourself for the questions that you might be asked. And in doing this, when they do ask you, you're going to feel much less like you're in the hot seat and having to think on the spot. Here's an example from a sales representative job description. They're asking this position to provide training and support materials to help clients effectively showcase the company's products to their customers. And here's the candidate's example. I created a lunch and learn training program that I delivered to clients over their lunch hour. It included a 15-minute presentation, electronic and hard copy reference material to support them. In 6 months, I delivered it to 25 clients, sales increased by 20%, and my weekly engagement with these clients increased by 30%. There's numbers, there's metrics, it's very specific. Know your resume inside and out. Just like you did with the job description, print your resume and have it in front of you. Make some notes in the margins about specific projects, tasks, customers, and situations that are relevant to the position that you're interviewing for. Because interviewers might ask you specific questions about your experience, looking for transferable skills, relevant projects, and being able to quickly and clearly formulate a relevant response is going to show up really well in your interview. This is an example from a sales rep resume. I'm going to focus in on conducted in-store merchandising and upselling. Make some notes regarding your successes. Like, you already know these because you were there, but remember, sometimes it's really hard to grab these little details when you're put on the spot. So the notes: custom promotion and feature for XYZ market, targeting return customers, increase sales of some product by 20%. It doesn't have to be perfect sentences, just enough to kind of jog your memory. So when an interviewer asks you a question like, tell us about a time when you created a successful initiative for a customer, it's there with all of the details. Think through those common interview questions. Some are going to be skill-based and some are more personal. The personal or self-reflection type questions are the ones that usually stump candidates. So I'm going to spend a bit more time here. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Strengths and weaknesses may not be easy to identify, let alone talk about. So an exercise that can help you get there: grab a piece of paper, draw a line straight down the middle, top to bottom. On one side, write out a couple of high points or achievements, and on the other side, write out a couple of low points in your career or your education. Now think through and make notes on what led to each of those situations. You can use arrows, you can use bullet points, whatever worked for you to kind of piece it all together. But in doing this, you're likely going to find a common point or a reoccurring action or decision that led to each of these highs and lows. And that is going to point you in the direction of your strengths and weaknesses. Now go back to each one of those situations and add any additional detail that you can, because these may also be your answer to a question like, tell me about how you managed a difficult situation at work. Or tell me about an achievement that you're most proud of. Now, another question that comes up often and really gets candidates is, what is a common misconception about you? The interviewer or the interview panel may already have this going, so don't be shy. For an example, you can think about maybe you're shy. So own that. Tell them that it's something that you work on. You want to be more outgoing, smile more, introduce yourself more, and that maybe you also see the value in reading the room a little and observing people before initiating contact. Don't criticize your employer. We have seen this so many times, it warrants its own slide. Don't criticize or speak negatively about any employer in any way. If you chose to leave or something happened, write out and rehearse what you will say so that your response is appropriate and concise. Why have you applied for this position? Is the driver personal or professional? Are you looking for a change to remote or hybrid or on-site? Are you relocating with a partner or a spouse? Looking for a different community for your family? Are you looking for more responsibility? Of course, be enthusiastic about the company's reputation and why you want to work there. But think about what's driving you personally as well. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Be honest, but think about the impact that your response could have on your success. Are you wanting to grow into a leadership or management role? Do you aspire to lead a team? Do you want to stay in a customer-focused role, but work with larger accounts? Always have questions for the interviewers. This gives you the opportunity to get the information that you personally need out of the interview. It can be a two-way street. The interview is for you to get to know the company and the people that you'll be working with, in addition to them getting to know you. Ask them things like, how does your team interact with one another? How do you interact with clients, with other internal departments? What do you see as the greatest challenge in this role? What are your goals for me in the first 3, 6, 12 months? And are you comfortable with what they said? And of course, at the end of the interview, show enthusiasm and ask, what are the next steps? Write out, rehearse, and repeat your introduction. When you join the interview, they're likely going to ask you to introduce yourself to the group. And they're not really looking for, hi, I'm Erin Stuart. They are looking for your answer to tell us about yourself and why you are the right person for this role. I'm intentionally suggesting that you do this last so that you have your research about the company and the role top of mind. Aim to have it less than 4 minutes. Having that well thought out, concise, but inclusive introduction will set the stage for a great interview and likely initiate some great questions from your interviewers about your experience. Now, we've talked about job descriptions, we've talked about resumes, we've talked about the tough questions. Now let's chat about logistics. I'll talk first about the virtual interview, and then I'll talk about the in-person interview. So, test your devices like your speakers and headphones. If it runs off of a battery, charge it. Test Teams or Zoom. No one wants to be waiting for the latest software update to happen right before an interview. Test the lighting in your room. Is it nice and bright? Have a look at what the interviewers will see on camera. You want it to look tidy and bright and professional. Plan your attire. If you don't know what to wear, just ask. We've had candidates show up for interviews with a dirty hat on and the interviewers notice. Don't let that be the reason that you don't move forward. Ladies, watch your neckline and what's going to be on camera. Be at your computer 10 minutes early to get logged in. Don't be in your car on your phone if you can avoid it. Eliminate the distractions. Turn off your phone, take off your Apple Watch, put a Post-it on your front door or your doorbell, keep your pets out of the room. You don't want to be in the middle of your introduction or an excellent answer and get distracted by a barking dog or a doorbell or a cat on your desk and completely lose your focus. Now, going on site. You're going to want to plan your route. Think through the traffic and what your best option is for a route at that time of day. Plan what you're going to wear. Again, if you don't know what the kind of dress code is in the office, you can ask. And don't show up with dirty boots or dirty hats. The interviewers do notice, and unfortunately, this tends to be a disqualifying factor. Be early. Sit in your car and kind of go through your notes. Go in confidently and introduce yourself to the receptionist. Tell them you're there for your interview and make some conversation before sitting down to wait. One candidate a year or so ago was the standout by far because of the time that they took to say hello to the receptionist. References. Now, these tend to follow the interview process, but I think it's an important thing to think through while you're getting ready for your interview. Your references should be professional. If you're new to the workforce, an advisor or that type of thing could work, but it needs to be someone who can speak to your work habits. It's really important to give them the heads up that someone may be contacting them. So make sure you give them some direction on who this person might be and the company that they work for. Ideally, you will provide the name of your reference, their title, the company they work for, phone number, and email address. To button up everything I've shared, time spent preparing for your interview is time well spent. Make notes on the job description and your resume so that you have those relevant examples top of mind and feel a little less like you're in the hot seat or being put on the spot when you're asked those tough questions. Think through the questions that the interviewers may ask and prepare your questions for them. Write, rehearse, and repeat your introduction. And lastly, plan ahead. Think through the logistics to reduce the risk of something not working or yourself running late. All of your prep work ahead of time will help you feel ready and confident. I wish you the best of luck in your interviews.